Good evening, my name is Bill Maiden. On July 8th of this year, Denis Sigouin scored an upset win over Chris Clarke at the Halifax Forum. He knocked him out in the 8th round. On September 30th, Denis Sigouin fights Ricky Anderson for the Canadian Welterweight Championship here in Halifax, once again at the Halifax Forum, and Denis is my guest here tonight. Denis, I want to welcome you to Halifax. Bienvenue.
Thank you very much.
I know the next time you come back to Halifax, you have designs on taking the title out of Halifax and back to Ottawa. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. Very correct.
When you went into that fight against Clarke, as I said, you were an underdog. Clarke had a good professional career, had fought a lot of good professional fighters. Your record at the time was 11-5. You had 11 knockouts.
12. It was 12.
12-5 now?
12-5. 12-6. Now it's 13-6. 13 by knockouts, and that was my 13th win.
How did you feel going into the Clarke fight? Did you feel confident yourself, or were you a little...
Well, we were the underdog, right? I mean, it was my first southpaw in my career, and Chris was the best at it. You know, I still believe that he's the best southpaw in Canada, and it was not easy for me because, like I said, it was the first southpaw, but we had a good strategy, and we wanted to make him work hard in the first round. So in the late rounds we started to do our work, because you can't step in a guy with like that and try to beat him to the points in the first rounds because he has too much experience, So that was the strategy, taking it cool and trying to slip punches and make him wear him out, making him work very hard.
Had you seen Clarke fight before?
I seen him once on tape. Well, I seen a couple of rounds on him against Clarke. That's it.
So you didn't really know much about him?
No, I didn't know much about him.
And as I understand it, you didn't really do much sparring against southpaws prior to Clarke. Is that right?
Well, what happened is it wasn't a big fight like this fight. I mean, the pay wasn't the same, and I couldn't have a good preparation for the fight because I got no southpaw where I live, And I had to bring a guy from the States, which cost too much money, not a good preparation. I had 6 rounds of sparring as a southpaw, so...
6 rounds before you fought Clarke?
6 rounds, that's it, So that's not much. It's not compared to what I have now.
Yeah, now you're sparring with southpaws exclusively.
Yes, I am.
And how's that going? Is it working out pretty well for you?
Well, it's working very good. Now we're up to, I think, 67 rounds of southpaw boxing. I'm working with amateurs very fast because Ricky has very fast hands, nice ability, movements, So I'm working with amateur, amateurs are faster, and they're changing all the time. I'm working with a light heavyweight, a lightweight, and 130 pounds, We're working on speed, timing, lateral movement,
Let's talk a little bit about the two styles, Clarke and Anderson. Clarke uses his right hand quite a bit for jabbing. He jabs with his right. He doesn't use his left that much, not as much as Anderson. Anderson, much more of a two-handed fighter. Is that going to create any more problems for you than Clarke's style?
Well, not really. You see that when I fought Clarke, the preparation wasn't that good, So movements of a southpaw, it wasn't in my head that much, the movements. I was just, going on the left side, watching the right, the left hand, like I didn't really know what's going on. But now I've been training at at least 2 months for the fight, and I've got 67 rounds of sparring with the southpaw. I know more the movements of what's going on, what kind of combination they throw, where you got to move, and what kind of combination you got to start with. I know all these, so I think it's going to be a lot easier than when I fought Chris. If I would have known what I know now when I fought Chris, I mean, I don't want to put. It's just that I would have won the fight earlier,
Yeah.
But, I was keeping it cool, making him work, so he could fade out, and me use my endurance, my strength to knock him out,
Clarke hit you a lot. I think we can agree on that?
Yeah, we can agree on that, but, I was working, like I say, he was beating me to the moves all the time.
Yeah.
For the first time, I figured I'd done good, like I say, he's the best at it. But he was always popping his right hand in, not letting me think, So I couldn't start any combination because he was always in front of me,
So you know that you can't let Anderson get that quick a start on you, or pile up the punches as much as Clarke did.
Well, you see, I'm not going to be the same boxer. I'm working with speed, and I'm working on little movements, and...
You want to slip more punches?
Oh, hey, as it is right now, I could go right in front of Ricky Anderson. You want to try to hit me, Ricky? You show your fast hand, and I know that I'm confident enough that he won't even touch me, I'm not, I'm saying that if we want to prove something, I could do that way, no problem, But this is not the technique I'm going to use, But it's just that to say that I have a better technique than when I fought Chris Clarke. I didn't know nothing when I fought Chris Clarke.
We've got a few rounds of the Clarke fight that we're going to look at right now, and I think we're going to look at round one very shortly, the opening round of the fight. And if we're ready in the control room for round one, we'll go to the fight at July 8th at the Halifax Forum with myself and Colin Durden supplying the commentary.
To the winner, maybe a crack Canadian welterweight.
Sigouin comes in quickly with a right
Crown.
hand. Clarke with that southpaw style.
Clarke basically a counter-puncher, but as you say, that southpaw style can be confusing to some boxers who only used to right-handed punchers.
Well, I'm sure Sigouin has been sparring with southpaws.
Chris Clarke, very businesslike.
Clarke showing good hand speed here in the opening seconds of this first round. Got a left hook to the jaw, Sigouin. See, Sigouin carries his hands low.
You can't afford to do that with Clarke. Clarke has a very fast right jab and can follow up with that hook. That combination that you saw there. Clarke looks very businesslike.
Oh, Clarke scored. Hard left hand. Left hook to the head. Sigouin just recently fought in Europe. Lost a close decision there. Here we are at the halfway mark of round one, scheduled for 10, main event. Chris Clarke and Denis Sigouin, Hull, Quebec.
Clarke flicking out that right jab. Following it up with the left hook. Sigouin, very active fighter, moves around quite a bit. Clarke, steady, aggressive.
Almost a slip by Sigouin.
You certainly have to give Clarke the edge in experience here.
Clarke 27-2 as a professional.
Good combinations being landed there.
Winding down to the end of round one.
Sigouin hasn't quite figured out that southpaw style yet. Clarke able to slip those right jabs in there, following up with his left.
Clarke very accurate with that jab. He's been getting through here in that first round.
Clarke going to the body with the right hand there, and the left. Moving up and down, body and head, body and head.
Chris Clarke looks very sharp, Colin. He's got good skills, has good skill set tonight. Mixing his punches up well. Good first round for Chris Clarke. Well, we didn't know prior to the fight that you only had 6 rounds of sparring with a southpaw before you went in against the likes of Chris Clarke. That has to be a scary experience going in against a fellow with all that with all the experience that Clarke had.
Yeah, well, it was. As you can see in the first round, I'm throwing rights, you know, and I'm throwing them, and I'm kind of hesitating to throw them, you know, because I don't know the movements of, you know, like, I know he's a big counter puncher, you know, I didn't know, like, I'm throwing those rights and I'm not landing. And so my corner told me, you know, stop, you know, after the first round, told me, stop throwing those right. We'll have lots of time to throw them when you get tired down, you know.
You had George Chavallo in your corner, working your corner with you. How much did Chavallo help you? Was he an inspiration, having him working your corner?
Well, it's the first time George works in my corner. I felt nice. I felt, you know, confident, you know, like, you know, George has fought for champion of the world, you know, and I felt good about it. I was happy that he was in the corner, you know, and I see him on the tape, and it's nice to see George in my corner, you know.
Rounds 1 through 6, I think, largely went pretty much the same. Clarke had the upper hand.
That's it.
He also was able to do some damage to your eyes. Which eye was it? To the left, right?
Well, left eye, right eye, you know.
He caused a lot of swelling under your eyes.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Is that going to create a problem for you in the fight on September 30th?
No, not really, because, you know, like I said, I keep on telling that again, you know, I ain't going to be the same boxer. I ain't going to get hit like I got hit, you know. I mean, it's another, you know, it's another fight, and it's another preparation, you know.
Would you describe yourself as a slugger or a boxer? Where do you see yourself?
I really was a slugger, but now I'm a slugger trying to box, you know. Like, I mean, that means I could box, and instead of when it gets rough or I get to lose patience, it's just that, you know, I gotta come out and, you know, try to box technically instead of just say, okay, let's go, you know. Like, if you lose my head, nobody can box if you lose your head, you know. I'm trying to think, you know, technically, you know.
Are you always trying to set up the right hand? Your right hand was the one that did the damage to Clarke. We're going to see that later on in the 8th round.
That we knew all the time that, you know, that once he was fading down, that was the one. With a southpaw, the right hand is effective. The right hand and a left hook automatically, you know, because automatically with his right leg, you know, is in front of your left. Automatically he touches with a jab. Well, all the distance is shorter for him to get, you know, hit with a right and vulnerable for a left hook.
You're fighting for the title, and your story really is quite an amazing story. You had 17 amateur fights. You were telling me before we went on. Not a lot of amateur experience.
No.
You haven't had a lot of professional experience.
No, not either.
And yet, you fought Chris Clarke. You knocked him out in the 8th round. You're going to be fighting Ricky Anderson, who is an accomplished amateur fighter, a North American amateur title holder, Canadian welterweight champion. How does this stuff sit with you now? Is everything happening too fast, do you think, or is it going along the way you want it?
Well, I'll tell you something. One thing happened too fast is the first time I fought, well, the time I fought for the Canadian title, I fought Dave Hilton. We fought for Canadian title and the continent. That was really too fast and too big, you know. But, you know, now it's not too fast and too big. I had experience between here and that time, you know. 2 years ago, I fought for the title. So I've matured more in a way of, as a person and as in training, you know, I've matured a little bit more. And I don't find it hard, you know. I find it easier now because I understand better, you know, what's going on. I understand all the media, and I understand what's going on. I really understand what's going on. So there's no, it's not stopping me from concentrating on the fight or focusing where everything is going on, you know. It's not stopping me at all.
You don't feel overwhelmed by what's happening?
Not at all. I remember 2 years ago when I fought for the title, you know, we had a lot of things to do, preparation for the fight. It really got me, you know, really got me. And this time, well, it's, you know, it's like going training. It's like, you know, taking a shower, going to train, putting the gloves, you know.
You're 24 years old.
24.
You will be the youngest opponent that Anderson has fought. Are you aware of that?
No, I wasn't aware of that. No.
So it should be, it will be a good experience for both of you. And we're going to look at round 7 now, which is where you started to rally in the fight and started really to take a little bit of control here.
Well, that's when the corner, you know, my corner man were waiting for a sign of fatigue, and that's where they saw the sign of fatigue, and his arms going low, and, you know, not counter punching as fast, you know. So that was our attempt there.
Okay, let's take a look at round 7.
As far as Sigouin is concerned.
Now Clarke opens up here. 7th round, he's getting the combinations together, and they're both opening up a little bit. Sigouin finally starting to show a little bit of aggressiveness himself.
And this is what he has to do. He has to bully Clarke some, if he can.
He's really been letting Clarke dictate the pace.
Exactly.
And Sigouin realizes now if he's going to win this fight, he's going to have to put Clarke down.
Don't make a mess, sir.
Chris sticking that right jab into Sigouin. But certainly, I think you're right.
Hard left hand by Clarke.
And a right combination by Clarke.
Now Sigouin starts to show a little bit of aggressiveness himself. Now he wants to go toe-to-toe with Clarke.
Clarke has to watch this.
Sigouin finally starts to wake up. Starts to take the fight a bit to Clarke.
He has to do this. He has to back Clarke up, and he has to start throwing those punches.
That's the first time that Sigouin has backed Clarke up.
Clarke certainly has to remember what happened to Billy Smith. That has to be on his mind. He has to be wary of going into a slugfest with Sigouin.
Sigouin, remember, has 11 KOs. That's his forte, is slugging. And he has become noticeably more aggressive here in this 7th round.
Well, he has to, Bill. He has to start taking the fight, if he can, to Clarke while he still has the stamina. If he leaves it too much later, too much longer, he won't have the stamina. He might have the desire, but he won't have the strength to carry it out.
Bill Maiden with Colin Durden here at ringside, winding down towards the end of the 7th round, scheduled for 10. Chris Clarke on your left and Denis Sigouin.
It has to be one of the most exciting rounds, Bill. We've seen Sigouin actually come to life in this round and start to fire the leather just a bit more.
Sigouin now trying to get inside, starting to throw the jab more and more right hands.
That's exactly what he has to do. He has to get inside of Clarke's right jab there, and you can see it flicking out again.
Clarke, you can see Clarke just push him away so he can keep jabbing him.
Yeah, he wants to keep him outside, where he can peck away at him.
Sigouin, you see the right hand. He wants to set that right hand up. Good combination by Clarke. Snaps Sigouin's head back. Sigouin's a tough kid, Colin. He's taken a lot of punches.
He's taken
so
a
far,
lot of
but
punches.
He hasn't been hurt. That's the end of round 7. Good round for Denis Sigouin. The best round of the fight.
You're looking at that fight as I am. What's going through your mind as you watch that fight?
Well, what really going through my mind is I would like to be right now on the TV set and you know, boxing with him right now, because I see a lot of mistakes and I know a lot of things that I would do right now, you know, because I've been spending with a lot more southpaws, you know. It's just, you know, I feel bad about looking at now, you know, like.
What did you see in the 7th round? Like you were saying before we went to the round that your corner said they sensed that Clarke was tiring.
Yeah.
Did you sense that too? Did you sense he was
yes,
getting a
I
little bit
did.
tired?
His speed, I was just slipping punches, but his speed was slowing him down, you know. And
jab was slower?
Yeah, and his movements weren't the same with his leg. Yeah, he has a very good movement with his leg. Every time I move my left leg, his left leg, like I was in the range to counter punch with my right, and his left leg, his right leg, he just turned it about 6 inches. He's very smart on the movements and
he knows how to cut the ring
distance.
off.
Yeah, he's very good at it, you know. So.
Did you feel confident then, at that point, that you could win the fight when you saw him tiring?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. In the 7th round there, I'm starting to count with my right hand. Not beautifully, but I know I'm starting to hurt him, you know, like it's a matter of time, you know, because I have the strength to come back, you know, even in the late rounds, you know. And we were prepared for that, you know, to go easy in the first rounds, you know. Not take punishment, but, you know, wear him off, you know, like I say, and, you know, start to work out in the late rounds.
The 8th round, of course, is the round where you KO'd Chris Clarke. It was an exciting round, an exciting finish. We're going to look at that right now. Let's take a look at the 8th round at the Halifax Forum on July 8th. Denis Sigouin and Chris Clarke.
Fowles man Razor Ruddock scored an easy first-round win over Al Hauk, and now Ruddock will fight Mike Weaver next month in the United States, August 23rd. But right now this is round 8.
See, we see a much more aggressive Denis Sigouin right now, and he has to be this way.
I wonder why he picked now at this time in the fight to get more aggressive, Colin.
He may have thought that he could have taken Chris Clarke out a little earlier than this, or he may have thought he could have worn down Chris Clarke. But Chris has really taken him apart with this combination with the jab and with the right, with the left hook. Sigouin has to start leaning on Clarke more, getting inside that jab, getting him at the body, working up to the head. So far he hasn't been able to do it, and I think it may be a bit too late.
Realistically, the only hope that Sigouin has to win this fight is to knock Clarke out. Clarke, a couple of strong left hands. Right in the face of Sigouin. He's caught a lot of leather there tonight.
And his face is showing it too, Bill.
Clarke has been very strong in the combinations.
The thing that's impressive so far about this, I guess, is about to this point, is the accuracy of Clarke's punches.
Yes, he hasn't missed at all.
It's not so much the strength; it's just the accuracy. They're landing, and landing where he wants them to land.
Good combination, left uppercut, right hand by Clarke. He's really throwing punches from all angles.
All angles. They're coming from all directions at Sigouin.
Good workout here for Chris Clarke tonight. This fight is not over yet.
Slapping, taunting punches being thrown by Chris there. Really not what you'd call telling blows, heavy blows, but enough to really make you stop and think a while.
Approximately 1 minute left here in the 8th round. We don't have an exact time. because the Halifax Forum does not turn on the clock for some reason. So we're really just guessing at the time, but it is winding down to the end of the 8th round. Now Clarke begins to really taunt Sigouin.
No, as I said before, his pants, his trunks are falling down.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Referee stops the bout while adjustments are made.
Mercifully stops the boat. Clarke goes right back to work.
Sigouin lands a left hand there. A right hand, rather.
Oh, now Sigouin has Clarke in a little bit of trouble. And Clarke is down. Clarke is down. Two hard right hands. And this is what we were talking about,
exactly
Colin.
what Clarke had to watch out for.
You have to watch
Exactly
Sigouin.
what he had to watch out for. That hard right hand.
The ending was really quick. When you got in, after they pulled Clarke's pants up and you got into a little bit of a clinch there in the middle of the ring, what happened? Clarke dropped his left and you
No,
followed through the right?
I looked in my corner and they telling me, you know, keep at him, you know. So that's what I did, you know. I kept at him, and the opportunity for the right hook came, and you know, that's how it happened.
You threw 5 straight right hands in 10 seconds from the time you threw your first punch until the time that Clarke went down. When did you know that you had hurt Clarke? First punch?
Time. It's a very good thing I have on my side of boxing. I can feel, I know the sense when I hurt my opponent, you know. It's a very good thing, a very good instinct I have, you know. I have the ability to know really when my boxer, my fighter, my opponent is hurt, you know. And I felt it right away when I went in the cable, you know. I hit him with right hooks on the head. I knew it was hurt, you know. That's why I made the step forward, because he was leaning in the cable, and he's a good counter puncher, so. You know, I knew I hurt him there.
When he didn't get up, he did get up, but he wanted no more.
I think.
Were you surprised at that?
Well, not really, because when I hit him with the right hand, I felt it in my elbow. You know, like that was kind of hard. You know, and take it this way, he went down. I mean, it was kind of hard. You know.
What's going to happen on September 30th when you get into that ring and there's 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 people at the Halifax Forum and you're looking at Ricky Anderson, and of course you're fighting in Anderson's hometown. That can't really please you, or does it? Does it matter to you where you fight in Halifax?
You see, since my debut of boxing, my career was always that, you know, being the underdog, and I fought Dave Hilton at the Montreal Forum in front of 20,000 people. It weren't for me, so, you know, I mean, that don't bother me no more. Like I said, I had the first attempt for the title, I had experience, this big experience for me, you know. Like, I'm going to focus the fight, and I know that those people, you know, those people that are looking at us, you know, and they're going to take maybe for Ricky. But once I knock him down, they're going to stand up and tap for me and applaud for me, and they're going to come give me an hand. All right, you know, that's the way it is in boxing, you know. Mm-hmm. They're going to take for Anderson, but once he gets beat, they take for a winner, you know.
Does, in your estimation, the longer a fight goes, does that favor you? The longer a fight goes, do you feel?
Well,
if you get into 10, 11,
you know,
12 with Anderson, do you feel that the edge is going to be going to your side?
Definitely yes, definitely yes. I'm physically stronger, and on the endurance side, I know that I know danger more than I've been through danger more than Ricky Anderson, and Ricky Anderson in the late rounds has not often getting danger, you know. So I figure, you know, if it goes, you know, late rounds, I figure I'd have the opportunity, you know.
You've sparred with Anderson, haven't you? Have you trained with him?
I sparred with him almost 2 years ago when I fought Billy Smith. I sparred with him 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And you know.
Have you seen any of his fights? Have you caught any of his fights on tape?
Well, I saw his fight against Johnny Herbert the first time we fought. You know, he stopped Johnny Herbert in the 9th round when I fought Billy Smith. You know that I didn't see any. He only boxes in Halifax. He doesn't want to get out of Halifax. I don't know what's the matter with him, but you know, he doesn't want to get out.
When you win the title, and I say this because you're very positive you're going to win the title.
Yes.
What are you going to do with it? Where are you going to fight? Are you going to fight Montreal, or
Well, what I'd like to maybe do, you know, like is maybe fight Dave Hilton in a rematch, or maybe Sean O'Sullivan. You know, get me with the belt to give me a good chance to get you know, ranked from the top 10. You know, not in the top 10, but close to the top 10 in the world. You know, there's a lot of openings after that. The door's opening. You know, after the belt, it's it's a dream come true, and it's a way of how do you say this? It's a way of you know, when you work hard, it's a recompensate. You know, it's
a reward.
Yeah, that's it.
And being French Canadian, you've got to be cognizant. You've got to be aware of the fact that with the Hiltons having been down for a certain period of time, having had their problems, you being French Canadian, taking that title back to Montreal, fighting in the Forum, you must be aware that you can make a lot of money.
Well, yes.
You get lucky.
Yes, it's sure that, you know, we're not always thinking of money, that's for sure. But, you know, at the end of the line, I ain't doing this for, I ain't just doing this for fun. Look at my face, you know. It's got to be something. It's true that I love boxing, and it's true that, you know, money's going to, with the belt, you know, money in Montreal could be big, you know. I hope it is, sure. I mean, I wouldn't refuse it, you know. But what I want is the belt, you know. Money's secondary. Once you have the belt, all your doors are open, you know.
We've got about a minute left. Do you want to look into that camera over my shoulder and say something to Mr. Anderson before the fight?
No,
He's probably watching the show.
No, I really got nothing to say. The only thing I got to say, Rick, is the best man wins, and I hope after the fight we're adults and we're matured. I just hope that, you know, we get to shake each our hands and say, well, the best man wins, that's it. You know, that's the only thing. And I hope, God, that nobody gets hurt. That's it.
Okay, well, that's a good way to end the show. And
thank you.
I want to wish you the best of luck on September 30th. It's going to be a great fight at the Halifax Forum. We're all looking forward to the fight, and best of luck with your career, and thanks very much for coming and chatting with us.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm going to sign off and say that I'll see you next week, and before we go, let's take one more look at Denis Sigouin and Chris Clarke in the 8th round at that knockout, and you'll see Mr. Sigouin at work. Good night.
Referee stops the bout while adjustments are made.
Mercifully stops the bout. Clarke goes right back to work.
Sigouin lands a left hand there, a right hand rather.
Oh, now Sigouin has Clarke in a little bit of trouble. And Clarke is down. Clarke is down. Two hard right hands. And this is what we were talking about,
exactly
Colin.
what Clarke had to watch out for.
You have to watch
Exactly
Sigouin.
what he had to watch out for. That hard.
Chris Clarke at 21, 22 years of age. You see Sigouin in the ring blowing kisses to the crowd. He had a lot of pressure put on his shoulders very early. He fought Ralph Hollett, and Clarke is coming into the ring now. He will shortly be in your picture. And of course, he beat Hollett once. He lost to Hollett.
Right.
And fighting as a middleweight. And really, he's had trouble getting any consistency since that time. Now, for this fight, he's been working hard. He sparred against John Mugabe in Arizona when Mugabe was training for the Hagler fight, and the report was that Mugabe was getting all he could handle from Clarke from a boxing standpoint. So, and everybody knows how well Mugabe did against Hagler in that fight in Las Vegas recently. So Clarke is, he's been doing a lot of sparring in other champions' camps, and he may feel that this makes up for the lack of actual fighting ring experience that he's been missing over the last few years. But certainly tonight, Colin, Clarke has been quoted widely in the papers. He says that this is really a crossroads fight for him. He has to win tonight if he wants to continue. If he doesn't, he's prepared to pack it in.
It has to be a crossroads fight. Chris comes in with a record of 27-2. Those two losses, as you say, one to Clyde Gray and the other to Ralph Hollett, both in championship fights. He came on at 21. He was on top of the ring world. He was Commonwealth champion, and a year later he was Canadian middleweight champion. And from then on, it was a rocky road. This is a comeback fight. It has to be considered a comeback fight for Chris, although he did win his last decision here. His last decision wasn't Chris Clarke at his best, but it was Chris Clarke in a controlled, smooth fight in which he really controlled and took command of it. Now tonight, he's up against an explosive fighter in Denis Sigouin, and it should be a real test for him. Can Chris Clarke come back? Can he take apart Sigouin as Billy Smith did and end up victorious as Billy Smith didn't? And I think tonight, on the basis of some of the showings that I've seen Clarke put together recently, I think I would give the nod to Chris Clarke.
Well, we're going to see very shortly. Here's a ring announcement from Pat Conley. What a career Chevalier had. Anybody who followed his career through the 60s remembers how tough he was. When you see Chevalier, who weighs in now at about 280, and I'll tell you, he's a pretty solid looking 280. He was a solid 240, 225 when he fought. And there's nobody tougher than George Chevalier. He's going to be 49 years young in September.
George Chevalier never knocked off his feet.
Fought Ali twice.
He
went
went
15, went
tough
30
guys.
rounds with Ali. 15 in Toronto and 15 in Vancouver. Fought Bonavina. Fought Quarry. Fought all the great fighters.
He fought the best
time.
of his time.
He fought the best of his time at a time when the heavyweight division was one division and there was one champion. Joe Frazier. The list is endless. Chevalier looks to be working the corner of Sigouin tonight.
Denis Sigouin from Hull, Quebec versus Chris Clarke, Halifax, Nova Scotia.
With a professional record of 11 victories, 7 losses. All 11 victories by knockout. Denis Sigouin.
Sigouin with a bit of a ponytail. First fighter I've seen with a ponytail.
He weighs 149 3/4 pounds. With a professional record of 27-2, including 16 knockouts. The former Commonwealth welterweight champion, Clarke.
Big ovation for Clarke, and it was 10 years ago this month, Paul, and the Clarke fought in Montreal in the Olympics in '76. Boy, have things changed since then.
Exactly. Fighters come to the center of the ring. Clarke in the center of the ring, waiting for Sigouin. Getting a final rub down from his handler.
Scheduled for 10. And the winner may face Ricky Anderson. And it's going to be public pressure that's going to determine a lot of that. The ovation is for the lady in the ring with round one. Signifying the start of this fight. This crowd is really pumped. It's hot, over 100 degrees here at ringside. And these guys are prepared to go 10 rounds, and it's going to be 10, maybe 10 tough rounds. Chris Clarke, the boxer. You look at Clarke, Denis Sigouin, the puncher, 11 KOs.
To the winner, maybe a crack Canadian welterweight
Sigouin comes in quickly with a right
crown.
hand. Clarke with that southpaw style.
Clarke basically a counter puncher, but as you say, that southpaw style can be confusing to some boxers who only are used to right-handed punchers.
Well, I'm sure Sigouin has been sparring with southpaws.
Chris Clarke, very businesslike.
Clarke showing good hand speed here in the opening seconds of this first round. Got a left hook to the jaws, Sigouin. See, Sigouin carries his hands low.
You can't afford to do that with Clarke. Clarke has a very fast right jab and can follow up with that hook. That combination that you saw there. Clarke looks very businesslike.
Oh, Clarke scored. Hard left hand. Left hook to the head. Sigouin just recently fought in Europe. Lost a close decision there. Here we are, about the halfway mark of round 1, scheduled for 10, main event. Chris Clarke and Denis Sigouin from Hull, Quebec.
Clarke flicking out that right jab. Following it up with the left hook. Sigouin, very active fighter, moves around quite a bit. Clarke, steady, aggressive.
Almost a slip by Sigouin.
You certainly have to give Clarke the edge in experience here.
Clarke 27-2 as a professional.
Good combinations being landed there.
Winding down to the end of round 1.
Sigouin hasn't quite figured out that southpaw style yet. Clarke able to slip those right jabs in there, following up with his left.
Clarke very accurate with that jab. He's been getting through here in that first round.
Clarke going to the body with the right hand there, the left. Moving up and down, body and head, body and head.
Chris Clarke looks very sharp, Colin. He's got good skills, has good skill set tonight. Mixing his punches up well. Good first round for Chris Clarke.
You'll notice that Chris is very conservative in his movement. He doesn't waste too much movement. He's not into jumping around the ring, bouncing on his feet. He's very conservative, very steady.
Deliberate
very
fighter.
collected.
Picks his spots, picks his openings. Keep in mind, Chris Clarke, a lot of people think that Chris Clarke is washed up. But this is one very talented fighter. He represented his country in the Olympics. He fought some great fighters as a professional. He won 2 professional titles, British Commonwealth and Canadian middleweight at one time.
And as I say, when you only have 2 losses and a record of 27-2, and both those losses come in championship fights, you've got to be respectful of your opponent.
Clarke coming out again with that jab.
We hear a lot about Sigouin's ability to knock you out, but Clarke also has an ability to knock you out. He's won 15 of his fights by knockout.
Well, as long as he keeps Sigouin away with that jab, he's not going to be able to get inside. Clarke with a bit of a height advantage, you can see.
As I say, that right jab is confusing, and Chris can really use it to advantage.
If you're just joining us, Denis Sigouin on the left of your screen, Chris Clarke on the right. We're in round 2, scheduled for 10. And where will the winner go? Will it be to a title fight with Anderson?
Well, I can imagine the Anderson camp is watching this fight very carefully.
I saw Rick McDonald walking by here just a few minutes ago. That's Ricky Anderson's trainer, so you know that Anderson's in the building somewhere too.
Clarke keeps that jab stuck in Sigouin's face, keeps him off balance.
Well, people feel that if Sigouin is to win this fight, he's going to have to KO Clarke. Oh, good uppercut, good left uppercut.
Good combinations by Clarke.
Got through the gloves of Sigouin. Bill Maiden with Colin Durden here at ringside. Ancient, historic Halifax Forum.
Scene of many a boxing card.
Now Clarke getting through with that
left hook.
Left hook is right to the head. He's really scoring well with both hands, Chris Clarke is. Sigouin really hasn't been able to do anything so far.
Sigouin's been flicking out occasionally his left jab, but Clarke, as I say, a counterpuncher.
He's getting those combinations through there very easily, Colin. Remember, Clarke was sparring with John Mugabe, preparing Mugabe for that fight against Hagler, and if you saw that fight between those two guys, you know Mugabe is no slouch.
Exactly.
As a matter of fact, Hagler suggested that Leonard fight Mugabe before he take a fight with him. There's a good left hand by Clarke. It got through.
It caught Sigouin off balance, knocked him a bit more off balance, but didn't hurt him appreciably.
That left hook hurt him.
Caught most of it on his glove, but some of it on the face. Good
There
round
it
for
is.
Clarke.
End of the second round. Good effort for Chris Clarke. Clarke throwing more of the punches. Definitely the aggressor in this fight, Colin.
Absolutely. As I say again, that's another controlled round from Chris. Did what he wanted to do. Kept away from Sigouin's strength, that right hand, and was able to land by far the more telling blows.
Hubie Earl is the third man in the ring. And of course, Hubie Earl refereed recently in Dallas, Donald Curry title fight last February, which was televised by CBS. So it's good to see a Nova Scotian getting international recognition, and Hubie Earl did a good job down in Dallas.
That's right. He did indeed get international recognition, and he did do a very good job, as a matter of fact.
And he is the third man in the ring. Probably the top referee in boxing here in Nova Scotia. And here's round 3. Chris Clarke, Denis Sigouin. Sigouin on your left, Clarke on your right if you're just joining us. Clarke so far has had the advantage over the first 2 rounds. It's a combination in again.
Clarke slipping punches very nicely. Taking him on his gloves. No really damaging blows yet landed yet by either fighter. But there's that pestering right jab that Clarke keeps sticking into Sigouin's face.
And over time, that's going to wear Sigouin down.
It's annoying, it sets you up, it puts you off balance, and it opens Sigouin up for that following left hook, left cross. Low blow there by Clarke. Referee either didn't see it or decided it wasn't harmful enough to call.
Good combination.
Good combination.
2 rights and a left by Chris Clarke. And he is really getting through Sigouin's gloves now.
That right jab, setting up the left hook. And Chris does that so well. We've seen it do him so many times before in so many other fights that Chris has had.
You see Clarke is slipping a lot of Sigouin's punches as he gets the jab in, and he is really tattooing Sigouin's face. Sigouin cannot solve that jab.
It's not so much that the jab is hurting, it's just that it stings, and it throws you off balance, and it opens you up for that left. Clarke seems able to land it whenever he likes.
Oh, good right hand by Clarke.
Sigouin comes back with the left.
Little flurry there.
Just a slapping, stinging jab that Clarke keeps flicking at him.
Clarke is really slipping the punches well, too.
You get the feeling, that Clarke is just biding his time. Wearing his opponent down. He has to watch out for Sigouin's right hand.
It'd be a great match between Clarke and Anderson, 2 boxers.
Exactly. It'd be a pretty fight, I think.
It would be a pretty fight. And an entertaining one. But right now, Clarke is working on
Down to the body and
Sigouin.
up to the head.
We are winding down to the end of round 3.
It's a good workmanlike round for Chris. He's just picking his man apart. Sigouin with a right, that dangerous right again. Sigouin stumbles back against the rope. And Clarke lets him off.
Good left hook by Chris Clarke.
That right hand that landed on Sigouin hurt him and drove him back into the ropes. A good round for Chris Clarke.
Well, you have to score it. All for Clarke so far. Sigouin really has not been able to mount anything concerted here in the way of an attack.
So I think Chris Clarke has this going the way he wants it to go.
What does Sigouin do? Sigouin is his right eye looks to be closing.
It's puffy underneath the eye.
Yeah, it is puffy, and that's the result, of course, of those jabs. You're looking at Clarke's corner.
You know, you look up at Clarke, and he looks relaxed, cool, and calm. And I noticed this about him in his last fight. He's not excited. He doesn't look too tired. It's like, okay, give me the briefcase, let's go to work.
We are scheduled for 10. And Sigouin is looking very puffy and a little bit red around the eyes. He has got to stop Clarke's jab or he's going to be stopped himself. Clarke, as we say that, sticks about 3 or 4 hands, right hands, to Sigouin's face.
Clarke is accurate with that jab. It stings.
I'm surprised at how low Sigouin carries his hands, Colin. He really carries them down below his shoulders.
You see,
And yet he can't stop the jab. There, you see that?
And the
Two
reason-
hard rights.
the reason for that is that Chris is coming at him with his right hand on the left side. And if you're not used to fighting a southpaw, that's the hand that you carry low. You carry your left hand low because you're expecting a left jab. So that your right hand is up for it. Yeah.
Good left hook. Chris Clarke.
The problem here with Sigouin is that he hasn't adapted to the southpaw style. He needs to keep his left hand higher to fend off Chris's right jab. And that's one of the reasons that Chris is able to land that right jab so effectively, because Sigouin continues to drop that left hand of his. See the jab there harder this time.
Clarke is starting now to get what appear to be harder combinations.
Exactly.
Into Sigouin.
Jab has a bit more oomph to it.
Leave it right home and home.
There, you see it again. That's a right hook almost. Clarke likes that combination off the jab. Stinging hand there, right hand by Sigouin.
Good combination by Clarke.
Clarke slipping the blows beautifully.
Very quick right jab, Colin. He's throwing it 2 and 3 times in succession.
As Sigouin himself said, Clarke is a slippery fighter. He's certainly showing it.
Well, Sigouin really has not been able to get one solid blow into Clarke. Clarke has either caught it on his gloves or he's managed to back off.
Clarke, good combination of lefts and rights. Doubling up the left hook with the right hook.
Sigouin, for all the leather that he has caught so far through almost 4 rounds, has not really been hurt.
Well, it looks as though Clarke is just content so far just to carve him up a bit. Maybe soften him up, get him used to that jab coming in, then come across with the left. Clarke is a cagey fighter. So far, he looks far, far from being ready for retirement. Good round of boxing, Joe.
Chris Clarke showing why he's 27-2. You look at the corner of Denis Sigouin. You see George Chuvalo there on the left. He's working the corner tonight for Sigouin. And Colin, looking at Sigouin, the eyes are puffing up below. I'm looking directly into Sigouin's eyes, and both of them are puffy. And certainly, Clarke is really tattooing that jab and setting it up the left hand very nicely, the hook, the overhand left. And he's pretty much been able to do what he wants so far with Sigouin.
Well, Clarke is giving a boxing lesson tonight. There's no doubt about that. It's not that Sigouin is so totally outclassed. It's just that Clarke is a better boxer. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Sigouin may be looking to land that big blow, but so far, Clarke has, I think, if I were scoring, has won every round. And he's won it clearly.
Bill Maiden with Colin Durden, respected ring analyst here in the Halifax Forum. Round 5, scheduled for 10. On a hot, steamy night in the Halifax Forum. And Chris Clarke doing much the same in this round that he's done in the previous 4, jabbing effectively with the right hand, as you can see there, and Sigouin cannot solve that jab. His eyes are getting puffy, and soon they will be closing.
Sigouin needs to carry that left hand a little higher, because Clarke is coming through with that right jab. I know this gets a bit repetitious, but he is landing that right jab continuously, on target.
He's really giving Sigouin a good boxing lesson tonight. Good overhand right by Clarke, right hook.
Lots of bobbing and weaving on the part of both fighters.
Combination by Clarke.
Right to the body and left to the head by Clarke. Sigouin every now and then flicks out his left jab. Catches Clarke occasionally, but only very occasionally. Clarke still slipping those punches easily.
Keep in mind that Sigouin is a slugger. And he was outclassed in a fight in the Dartmouth Sportsplex, as Colin Durden mentioned, by Billy Smith for 8 minutes, and then he came back and he put Smith on the canvas. So he can fire. But so far, Chris Clarke is showing good defense, and he's following it up with a devastating offense. Sigouin's 11 wins, as we mentioned earlier, came by knockout, and it looks like if he's going to win tonight, he's going to have to knock Clarke out as well, because he hasn't won any of the rounds so far, and we're just about through round 5.
And you can see Clarke's counter-punching abilities here. Clarke's trunks are slipping a bit here. Every now and then he'll drop back and try and pull them up a bit. His trunks continue to slide. We may see a little bit more than his boxing ability.
Clarke continuing with the right hand, the right jab, and now Sigouin.
That right hand is working for Clarke.
It is. Sigouin started to throw some jabs himself, but Clarke showed a good combination.
It's a good example of Clarke's counter-punching ability. Whenever Sigouin comes through with a combination of jabs of his own, Clarke comes up and over with the right jab and follows it up with his hook.
Well, we're through 5, and they decide to pull Clarke's pants up now. And there you see his corner. He's got I don't think he has any swelling there, although they've got an ice pack, but I think that's just to cool him down.
Cool it down.
Yeah, because it is hot here tonight. Round 6. All right, Colin, what does Sigouin have to do? His eyes, I'm looking into his eyes, and they're almost
looking at
slits
Sigouin,
now.
and quite seriously, Bill, I don't think there's too much that Sigouin can do.
You think he's just going to try for the big punch and try and put Clarke away?
I think that's what he's going to have to do. You know, either that or tie Clarke up and take away the effectiveness of that right jab. He hasn't solved that right jab. And he's going to have to do that. He's going to have to become more aggressive and take the fight more solidly to Clarke. But he can't do that so far because Clarke keeps putting him off balance with that right jab. He has to carry the fight more to Chris. He has to become more aggressive. He has to get inside, away from that straight right.
Neither fighter has really been in any serious trouble so far. What you're seeing here is a boxing lesson.
Sigouin is quite puffy under both eyes, particularly under the right eye.
Well, his eyes are going to be slits very shortly because they are swelling up. He is taking a tremendous number of shots to the head.
It's the cumulative total of those right jabs that are taking their toll on Sigouin.
See Clarke, 2, 3 right hands in a row.
Clarke is fighting an extremely effective fight. It's controlled, it's conservative, but he has to be well ahead on points.
Now Clarke getting through with left hand, overhand left.
Clarke boxing with almost surgical precision.
He looks good tonight. He really does, and I think he's primed for a shot at Anderson. Sigouin showing a little flurry himself. A couple of right hands. Clarke, of course, comes back with his own.
Both of
jab.
Sigouin's eyes bruised, swollen. Big mouse beginning to develop under both eyes. Clarke penetrates that defense.
He's not going to be a pretty sight when this fight is over. Now Clarke, once again, textbook boxing lesson here. Right jab, followed up with a couple of lefts.
Now you have here a southpaw counterpuncher. That's what Sigouin has to do. He has to charge into Clarke. He can't stand there and box Clarke.
He has to get more aggressive. Certainly, he's allowing Clarke really to take the fight to him, and he's lost all 6 rounds. He really hasn't shown any of that power that he was noted for in those 11 KOs.
And the longer the fight goes, the better it is for Chris Clarke, because the sting comes out of the gloves of Sigouin the further along the fight goes. And certainly those jabs are taking their toll. I mean, you hit a man with the jab once, and it's not too bad, but you hit him with it 200 times, it's got to have an effect. And it's showing its effect on Sigouin right now.
What about fatigue here, Colin? Is that a factor?
I don't think so with Chris Clarke, that it's going to be a factor, because as I say, he fights well within himself. He's quite controlled and quite conservative. Sigouin is expending a lot more energy in movement, for example, in ducking and trying to get away from that jab, in frustration. So I think fatigue may be a bigger factor as far as Sigouin is concerned.
Now Clarke opens up here. The 7th round, he's getting the combinations together, and they're both opening up a little bit. Sigouin finally starting to show a little bit of aggressiveness himself.
And this is what he has to do. He has to bully Clarke some, if he can.
He's really been letting Clarke dictate the pace.
Exactly.
And Sigouin realizes now if he's going to win this fight, he's going to have to put Clarke down.
Don't make a mess, right?
Chris sticking that right jab into Sigouin.
Don't wake him up.
But certainly, I think you're right.
Hard left hand by Clarke.
And a right combination by Clarke.
Now Sigouin starts to show a little bit of aggressiveness himself. Now he wants to go toe-to-toe with Clarke.
Clarke has to watch this.
Sigouin finally starts to wake up. Starts to take the fight a bit to Clarke.
He has to do this. He has to back Clarke up, and he has to start throwing those punches.
That's the first time that Sigouin has backed Clarke up.
Clarke certainly has to remember what happened to Billy Smith. That has to be on his mind. He has to be wary of going into a slugfest with Sigouin.
Sigouin, remember, has 11 KOs. That's his forte, is slugging. And he has become noticeably more aggressive here in this 7th round.
Well, he has to, Bill. He has to start taking the fight, if he can, to Clarke while he still has the stamina. If he leaves it too much longer, he won't have the stamina. He might have the desire, but he won't have the strength to carry that.
Bill Maiden with Colin Durden here at ringside. Winding down towards the end of the 7th round, scheduled for 10. Chris Clarke on your left and Denis Sigouin.
It has to be one of the most exciting rounds, Bill. We've seen Sigouin actually come to life in this round and start to fire the leather just a bit more.
Sigouin now trying to get inside. Starting to throw the jab more and more right hands.
That's exactly what he has to do. He has to get inside of Clarke's right jab then. You can see it flicking out again.
Clarke, you can see Clarke just push him away so he can keep jabbing him.
Yeah, he wants to keep him outside so he can peck away at him.
Sigouin, you see the right hand. He wants to set that right hand up. Good combination by Clarke. Snaps Sigouin's head back. Sigouin's a tough kid, Colin. He's taken a lot of punches.
He's taken
so
a lot
far,
of
but
punches.
He hasn't been hurt. That's the end of round 7. Good round for Denis Sigouin. The best round of the fight.
That's the best
him.
round for Sigouin as far as landing blows.
And that, as you said, Clarke has to be cognizant of the fact that Sigouin can hit, and that all it takes is one punch, and this fight can turn around very, very quickly. Although you have to give Clarke the lead overall by a wide margin.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about that. When we say that was a good round for Denis Sigouin, his best round, it was certainly by comparison to his others. It takes nothing from Chris Clarke, who weathered any storm that Sigouin threw up at it, but he has to be wary of that powerful right hand of Denis Sigouin. And certainly, Denis Sigouin is round 8 coming up. He must know that he's behind, and that he's probably going to have to go for a knockout.
You look at Sigouin's corner, George Chuvalo on the left, former Canadian heavyweight champion, working the corner of Sigouin. Earlier tonight, if you watched, you saw Chuvalo's man Razor Ruddock score an easy first-round win over Al Houck, and now Ruddock will fight Mike Weaver next month in the United States, August 23rd, but right now this is round 8.
We see a much more aggressive Denis Sigouin right now, and he has to be this way.
I wonder why he picked now at this time in the fight to get more aggressive, Colin.
He may have thought that he could have taken Chris Clarke out a little earlier than this, or he may have thought he could have worn down Chris Clarke. But Chris has really taken him apart with this combination with the jab and with the right, with the left hook. Sigouin has to start leaning on Clarke more, getting inside that jab, getting him at the body, working up to the head. So far he hasn't been able to do it, and I think it may be a bit too late.
Realistically, the only hope that Sigouin has to win this fight is to knock Clarke out. Clarke, a couple of strong left hands. Right in the face of Sigouin. He's caught a lot of leather there tonight.
And his face is showing it too, Bill.
Clarke has been very strong in the combinations.
The thing that's impressive so far about this, I guess, is about to this point, is the accuracy of Clarke's punches.
Yes, he hasn't missed at all.
It's not so much the strength; it's just the accuracy. They're landing, and landing where he wants them to land.
Good combination, left uppercut, right hand by Clarke. He's really throwing punches from all angles.
All angles. They're coming from all directions at Sigouin.
Good workout here for Chris Clarke tonight. This fight is not over yet.
Slapping, taunting punches being thrown by Chris there. Really not what you'd call telling blows, heavy blows, but enough to really make you stop and think a while.
Approximately 1 minute left here in the 8th round. We don't have an exact time because the Halifax Forum does not turn on the clock for some reason. So we're really just guessing at the time, but it is winding down to the end of the 8th round. Now Clarke begins to really taunt Sigouin.
No, as I said before, his trunks are falling down.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Referee stops the bout while adjustments are made.
Mercifully stops the bout. Clarke goes right back to work.
Sigouin lands a left hand there. A right hand, rather.
Oh, now Sigouin has Clarke in a little bit of trouble. And Clarke is down. Clarke is down. 2 hard right hands. And this is what we were talking about,
exactly
Colin.
what Clarke had to watch out for.
You have to watch
Exactly what he had to watch out for. That hard right hand.
And he really stunned Clarke. He got about 3 right hands in a row, and now Clarke is... That's it. That's it. The fight is over. Suddenly, Chris Clarke and Denis Sigouin, who was getting pounded all night. Unbelievable ending, Colin.
Unbelievable ending, but that's what we said. Chris had to box him. He had to stay away from that powerful left-right combination. He lasted for 8 rounds, 9 rounds.
Incredible. Almost the end of the 8th round. The Clarke suddenly was out of it. And the doctor is looking into Clarke's eyes.
Clarke knew he couldn't continue. That was an incredibly hard right hand, and down Clarke went. Until that time, he had the bout sewed up. All he had to do was stay out of it.
Absolutely. 2:55. There was 5 seconds left in that round. And that is an incredible finish. 2:55 of the 8th round. Denis Sigouin KOs Chris Clarke with
talked about
three
it.
hard right hands.
We talked about what Sigouin did with Billy Smith. We mentioned that you asked me, Bill, what Sigouin had to do. He had to get in and start brawling with Clarke. That's exactly what he did, and he won the fight. Hard right hands. Chris Clarke goes down.
Absolutely unbelievable, because Clarke was in total control of that fight. But we mentioned that even though Sigouin was taking a terrible beating, that the fight isn't over until it's actually over. That one punch can change the direction of a fight very quickly, and literally that's what happened, Colin.
And we said he had to do it right about now because he wouldn't have the stamina later on. He saved that punch the whole fight. And he caught Clarke, and he hurt Clarke badly. Clarke knew he couldn't continue. His legs were wobbly. He spit his mouthpiece out voluntarily at the side of the ring.
Well, very unfortunate for Chris Clarke, because he was fighting a terrific fight and really had this thing under control.
7 rounds, the fight was Chris Clarke's. The 8th round, he decided that he could fight. He could slug it out with Sigouin. He fought Sigouin's fight for 2 minutes and 55 seconds into that round. And that was the end of Clarke.
Well, the irony too, Colin, of course, was that Sigouin really didn't get into it until the 7th round, and he started to become a different fighter. And then in the 8th, he carried through. He KOs Chris Clarke in the 8th round, 2:55 of the 8th round. And what happens from here, who knows, for Chris Clarke. Ricky Anderson, will he fight Denis Sigouin? Well, that's another story. Well, you've seen an entertaining evening of boxing here at the Halifax Forum. We hope you've enjoyed tonight's card. I'm Bill Maiden for Colin Durden from the Halifax Forum. Good night. Thank you for being with us, and we'll see you next time.